All right, so for this video, I'm just going to talk about something that's been on my mind for the past few days, which is that which is basically that anything that's too apparent or anything that's too visible, anything that's too mainstream is what they want you to see, right? And you have to know what the establishment wants you to see, what the establishment wants you to believe, what the control system wants you to see is usually the stuff that they push in the media, in the news, in the social media algorithms, in the books or whatever. I mean, books not so much anymore since information's shared through technology, right? But like in the movies and all this other stuff, right? And I've just been thinking about this and how anytime you come across a piece of information, you have to look a level deeper because you can't trust that which is presented to you by the system. You can't trust that which is presented in the visible, right? Obviously, this is one of like the most basic spiritual sort of tenets, which is that the visible world is sort of a deception. It's an illusion, right? The stuff that is apparent, right, is something that hides the unseen, and there's like this idea that like what's really going on, or like the stuff that's really playing out, or like the arena that this war is being fought in, the spiritual war between good and evil, that this war is being fought in the unseen, and that seems to be one of the most basic spiritual tenets, right? And you could apply this principle that if it's too apparent, if it's too mainstream, it's something that they want you to see. If it's too promoted, you should be skeptical of it, right? And you can apply this to people, right? Like I've talked about Joe Rogan before, right? And like someone like Joe Rogan to me is suspicious because of how mainstream he is, because of how promoted and loved by the algorithm he is, how popular he is, how pushed he is, right? The fact that it's easy to find, videos and stuff about him, I believe is a testament to him being controlled opposition, right? It's almost like a Project Mockingbird, right, where the CIA has journalists inside of the mainstream media, right? And you could also apply this to religion as well, like the mainstream, new age doctrines that talk about karma and how Earth is a school, and how like your suffering is actually learning lessons because you've contracted to do this by this ascended master, and how in the new age they promote going into the tunnel of light, right? Like you should distrust anything that's super mainstream, and especially if you look at like the classic religions, right? Think about like the King James Bible. If there was anything in the King James Bible that was a threat to the system, they would have, like the Council of Nicaea would have said, "Oh, but this book is apocryphal, right? Like it's an apocrypha, it's not canon." According to who? According to a bunch of guys who want to maintain their power structure in the church, right? Like that. So you need to ask these questions, right? And you need to say, and yet again, anything that they present on anything that the system presents to you on a silver platter, let's put it that way, anything that the system presents to you on a silver platter is usually poison. It's usually a distraction. It's usually a nothing burger, right? That doesn't really threaten the system, because the anything that really threatens the system, any information that really threatens the system, it's not reported in the news. It's not loved by the algorithm. It's memory hold, right? Think about like the Miami mall with like where all the police were swarming the mall, and people talked about how there were aliens at the mall or whatever, right? And how quickly that was memory hold. You look at someone like Kyle Odom, who talks about the reptilians, his encounter with reptilian entities. And you look how that's memory hold, and how and I've talked about this in previous videos. Excuse me. I've talked about this in previous videos, where how there's like mainstream conspiracies, and then there's like the real conspiracies, right? So the mainstream conspiracies would be like ancient aliens, Bigfoot, like the new age, like let's use this crystal to align our chakras, right? Like that's like the stuff that's presented on a silver platter, versus the actual stuff, which is like the Talmud, like the satanic ritual abuse, the Draco reptilians, the Saturn moon matrix, the reincarnation trap, the prison planet theory, right? These are all the actual. That's the stuff beneath the surface, right? And so you can't trust anything that the system presents to you on a silver platter. It's just you have to you just have to be sort of skeptical of anything if it's too apparent, if it's too visible, right? Yet again, if you look at like famous people, right? If they're too famous, if they're too visible, if it's too easy to find, content about that thing, that it's probably something that doesn't really threaten the system all that much, because the stuff that really threatens the system they hide, and they memory hole, and they obfuscate it. They obfuscate anything that's a threat to the system. They don't amplify it in the media. They don't, like, anything that you see in the media is what they want you to see. It's a distraction from something else. Anything that the system presents to you on a silver platter is a distraction from something else, right? And you could even I mean, if you look at like stuff like people who invent, technologies, like if you think about like the guy who made a water powered car, right? How he, got poisoned at a restaurant, and like that story sort of memory hold, right? If you think about um people who invent, cold fusion devices, zero point energy devices, they do stuff with electrogravitics. They do they fuck around with gravity, right? Any inventor that does that stuff is usually like they fall out of third story windows. And I think that there was even this guy who was researching anti-gravity programs in Lockheed, he was like a journalist, right? Of course, a journalist who was researching the electrogravitic stuff that, companies like, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin were doing, and what they did is they put heavy metals into his water, and he got cancer, and he died of cancer. Like he literally died of cancer within like the span of like 3 months. He got cancer from all the heavy, and this was because of like the autopsy, right? The autopsy actually found heavy metals in his body, like thorium, not beryllium. Like I think thorium was one of the main ones, but just a bunch of heavy metals, a bunch of irradiating metals that were in his pipes, in his water. Maybe it was in his food or something like that, right? So the stuff that is really the stuff that you really need to pay attention to is the stuff that they use the silver platter to distract you from. Right? I've just been thinking about this idea. I've been meditating on this because that is a really good way to sort of measure the truth of something. Is if something is true, it's usually obscure. It's usually not presented in the mainstream. It's usually something that they want to cover up. It's usually something that makes you sound crazy if you talk about it, right? Anything that's too mainstream, anything that's too visible is not a threat to the system. You need to pay real close attention to the stuff that nobody is talking about. You need to pay attention to the stuff that nobody in the mainstream will even mention. How there's, certain subjects, certain topics, certain people, certain, ways of thinking that aren't promoted, that people will even avoid talking about. There's certain people that, I mean, there's certain people and there's certain topics that, someone like Joe Rogan will avoid talking about. So I've just been thinking about that, and I think this is really needs to be expressed, which is that anything that's too visible is what they want you to see. Anything that you see in the media, anything that is, generated by the algorithm, and and I've noticed this with certain topics. Like if I look up prison planet topics, I'll usually get no like I'll click on like a video or two of like the prison planet stuff. Like I'll watch like Benedictine, the Truth, or I'll watch, the prison called Life. That's another channel that talks about the prison planet, right? Usually I'll watch that stuff, and it won't affect my For You page, my algorithm. It won't affect that whatsoever. But as soon as I click on one video about Christianity, for example, I'll get like my YouTube Shorts page will be full of the same content. It's the same thing with any other topic that's mainstream. If I search up a person, if I search up a movie or something like that, usually like my algorithm, like the algorithm on like YouTube Shorts or whatever, will respond with more of that content, except for the forbidden topics, except for the topics that they don't want people knowing about. And so I think that's interesting when it comes to like the YouTube algorithm. How, there are certain topics that will, like if you tap on just one video, if you tap on one short of one topic, though, that'll be amplified, and you'll get like 10 of the same topic as you scroll down your YouTube Shorts or whatever. But then you can click on another topic, and it won't affect the algorithm at all, right? So I think that yet again, the stuff that no one's talking about, the stuff that no one's paying attention to, that's the stuff that you need to pay attention to. Like the stuff that no one's paying attention to is the stuff that you need to pay attention to. The stuff that everyone's talking about and everyone's a buzz about this subject or this topic that's presented by the system on a silver platter. Whatever religion, spiritual doctrine that's presented on a silver platter. Yet again, like ancient aliens. This idea like, oh, like aliens built the pyramids and aliens did this and aliens did that. That's not a threat to the system. For Georgia Pasukoulos to be like, the ancient extraterrestrial texts speak about the sky people, and then they have like the tribal flute. And like the, is it possible that the I'm like, hold on, like, is it possible that the aliens thousands of years ago descended to Earth to build the pyramids? Dun, dun, dun. Right, like that. That's like the system isn't scared of shit like that, right? I don't know. I just think Ancient Aliens is funny, but yet again, like, you should pay attention to the stuff that's memory hold, the stuff that's hard to search up on YouTube, right? Like anytime I look up something about like the Draco reptilians, I'm usually presented with the BuzzFeed videos and the Vice videos saying that sort of, debunking the Draco reptilians, right? So the stuff that the algorithm makes it hard to search up like actual content of is the stuff that the system hides really well is the stuff you need to pay attention to, and you shouldn't pay attention to the apparent stuff. You should look beyond the stuff that is the most visible, right? But yeah, that's the video.